You know, I gotta say, out of all the horror movies that are highly dependent on 90s and early to mid-2000s technology, this one holds up the best. So welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy, and today we're kicking it all the way back to 2002 with what has truly become considered a horror classic, The Ring. Now, at the beginning of the last video, I said that my wife hates scary movies and does not watch them with me, which isn't strictly true. The part about her hating them is absolutely true, but she does agree to watch one horror movie of my choosing with me each October.
The things I do for love.
She's the best. Anyway, she's still recovering from watching The Ring with me this weekend. Frankly, I thought I was taking it easy on her, but I actually forgot just how relentlessly creepy this movie is, with very little to offer in the way of, like, optimism. I myself hadn't seen it since high school, which, as you can probably tell from my hairline, if not my perpetually youthful and glowing face, was quite some time ago. It was one of those movies that I remember liking it, I just didn't actually remember that much about it. In fact, the main thing I remember from the franchise was at the end of The Ring 2, when Naomi Watts slams the well shut on the girl and says to her, "I'm not your fucking mommy." But of course I remember all the hype around it. Specifically, I felt like The Ring and The Grudge were kind of in this unique category together. Both remakes of Japanese horror films, both absolute staples of late-night middle school get-togethers, both featuring creepy, pale ghost girls with long, dark, stringy hair, come to think of it, which no wonder we've overdone that in the years since. So 22 years after its release, let's break it down. The good, the bad, what made The Ring such a phenomenon? And I think we've got to start the discussion with the tape. The Ring is, of course, a film about a cursed videotape that once you watch it, you die 7 days later. Now, the whole videotape angle isn't perfect from a sense-making perspective. What is this tape? How did it get made? These questions go unanswered. But the videotape itself is so incredibly unsettling that it easily overcomes these issues. It's a really impressive piece of horror media. It's not gory or too intense or any big jump scares or anything like that. It's just so weird that it sort of sears itself into your memory. I mean, really, it was the main thing I remembered from my first watch of this movie, was just how unsettled and off the videotape made me feel. And as you gradually start to understand more and more about the tape throughout the film, it gets more creepy, not less. I've always thought that old school video camera footage has like a really eerie feel. It's like bad things happening or in a place where something bad happened. Like the movie Sinister, I think, rode that train harder than anything I've ever seen, but this videotape has a very similar vibe, actually. So that tape, I think, is more responsible than anything else for this movie's success, although of course we cannot forget the all-time jump scare of the dead girl in the closet, which is obviously the most effective single moment in this film. It was definitely the moment that got my wife the worst, because she's one of those, like, cover your eyes kind of as you sense that a scary moment is coming, but this one just comes out of nowhere, right? I mean, it's up there in terms of that car jump scare, the scream in The Haunting of Hill House, as far as just, like, most unexpected and effective jump scares. Now, all of that being said, this movie was surprisingly a bit more of a slow burn than I remembered. In fact, you could say the first 20 minutes are horror and the last 20 minutes are horror for sure, and then this middle hour is almost more like a detective mystery than anything. It's very interesting, honestly, the way the characters are like trying to figure out everything in the tape, put all the pieces together before their 7 days are up. But I do think an adult watching this for the first time in 2024 might be a little like, what are you guys talking about? This isn't nearly as scary as I thought it was going to be. I do also think it suffers from the kids aren't usually great in horror movies thing. The child actor here is turning in a bit of an odd performance. In fact, he just kind of seems like an odd kid. Like, first of all, why is he calling his mom by her first name? Second of all, have you guys seen that t-shirt where it's like the many faces of Chuck Norris and it's just the same face of Chuck Norris with like 9 different emotions underneath it? That's happening here with this kid, except every single emotion is, I have just seen a ghost, or I am literally in the process of seeing a ghost. I mean, look at those eye bags. This kid is seeing ghosts every day. He looks like Boog from Meet the Robinsons. All that being said, I understand that young David Dorfman is now my age and is working as a lawyer for the U.S. House of Representatives. So once again, I am sorry to my family for being such a comparative disappointment, and I'm sorry to David Dorfman for saying that you looked like Boog. But you did. Logan Roy is in this for a bit. He's throwing 100 in this movie for like 3 straight innings. And we also have Martin Henderson from X, which just came out a couple of years ago. Guys, it is incredible how much 20 pounds and 20 years can turn a man from the 6th Backstreet Boy into the always 4 beers deep assistant coach of a high school football team in Texas. Are there actually 5 Backstreet Boys? I don't know. I don't want to look it up. It sounds right. This is definitely Naomi Watts' movie, though this is like right at the beginning of her career. I think she just did Mulholland Drive and then this. So, I mean, she's very good in it. It's not one of those look at me horror performances where the acting is kind of like the main attraction. This isn't Toni Collette in Hereditary or Mia Goth in Pearl. It's just very understated, you know, letting the story do most of the work, but hitting all the right notes yourself. Although I will say she does seem a little too calm for a woman who's about to die, like, tomorrow, so chalk that up in the criticism column, I guess. As far as negatives about this movie go, the only main one that stood out to me on rewatch is just that maybe this movie hasn't aged super well because the technology in it hasn't aged super well. And there's so much technology in this movie. Like, I mean, first of all, obviously, you've got the cursed videotape, which shows absolutely no traces of having been made, which, like, what? Okay, so what the is this thing? Does it morph into a DVD throughout the years? In 2024, will it somehow find its way onto a streaming platform? I'm just picturing a Peacock employee on the back end just frantically trying to remove this as the view count just keeps getting higher and higher, like, damn it, why would you delete? But beyond that, you've got the phone call where you watch the tape and the phone rings, the one that's plugged into the wall in your house, and then a voice whispers that you've got 7 days to live. And somewhat hilariously, Naomi Watts just declines to pick up the phone like several times during this movie, and you've got to imagine that the ghost on the other side is just so disappointed with that. Like, oh man, I didn't get to say the thing. I never get to say the thing. But if all that weren't enough, once you've seen the tape, then your face gets all blurred and distorted anytime someone tries to take a picture of you. But because this is 2002, you've got to wait until the film is actually developed to see it. So yeah, to a Gen Z viewer of this film, or whatever we're on now, I guess we're on a new one, Alpha, whatever the fuck it's called, this movie would probably be fairly inscrutable just because of all this old technology. It would probably seem like you're one step away from silent pictures or something. But guys, at the end of the day, The Ring was a classic for a reason, and it still holds up just fine. It's got a phenomenal atmosphere. Everything in the movie is kind of like muted and tinted blue-green, which I think is super effective. It's obviously got some classic jump scares. It's not perfect, but I think it's well deserving of its increasing status as a classic horror movie. I'm definitely in favor of that. So I'm gonna give The Ring 3.5 stars out of 5. All right, guys, October marches on, and so do we. Stay tuned for more spooky content coming soon. But in the meantime, thank you for watching this video, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.